Hello and welcome to NASA's Digital Learning Network. My name is David Alexander and I'm connecting to you from the NASA Armstrong Flight Research Center here at the Edwards Air Force Base in California. As you know, many Americans have always had a fascination for space exploration to venture where no man or woman has gone before. NASA's shuttle fleet achieved numerous firsts and opened up space to more people than ever before during the Space Shuttle program's 30 years of missions. The Space Shuttle, officially called the Space Transportation System, or STS, began its flight career with Columbia roaring off Launch Pad 39A at NASA Kennedy Space Center in Florida on April 12th of 1981. That first mission verified the combined performance of the orbital vehicle, its twin rocket boosters, giant external fuel tank, and 3 Space Shuttle engines. It also put to test the teams that manufactured, launched, and managed the unique vehicle system, which consisted of about 2.5 million moving parts. The orbiter, most commonly referred to as the Space Shuttle, was the only part of the shuttle stack that made the trek into orbit. Its boosters were set jettisoned into the Atlantic Ocean, retrieved and reused. The external fuel tank was the only part of the stack not used again. Instead, it re-entered into the atmosphere about 9 minutes after launch and burned up over the Pacific Ocean. When the shuttle returned to Earth, it did not land under parachutes as NASA's Apollo capsules that preceded it. Instead, it returned by gliding back on a pair of wings to a runway here on Earth. Question: do you know how many shuttles were built? I'll give you a moment to answer that question. If you said 6, you're right. 6 shuttles were built, but only 5 shuttles went into space. Let's take a look at each shuttle and its impact on space exploration. The first space shuttle was named the Enterprise, after the spacecraft on the critically acclaimed series Star Trek. Although it never flown in space, it was used to test critical phases of landing and other aspects of shuttle preparations. Enterprise was mounted on top of a modified 747 airliner for the approach and landing tests in 1977. It was released over the vast dry lake bed at Edwards Air Force Base in California to prove it could glide and land safely. Columbia was the first shuttle to fly into orbit on STS-1. Its first 4 missions were to test flights to show that the shuttle design was sound. Astronauts operated the robotic arm and put all the flight systems through evaluation phases during the flight test. Columbia deployed numerous satellites and operated several times as a laboratory in space during its missions. It was the only shuttle to land at White Sands Space Harbor in Las Cruces, New Mexico. Columbia and its 7 astronauts were lost February 1st of 2003 when it broke apart during re-entry on its 28th mission, STS-107. The Challenger was the second operational shuttle and made its first flight, STS-6, on April 4th of 1983. Challenger hosted missions that saw astronauts take the first ever spacewalks with jetpacks, including the first mission to pull a satellite out of orbit, fix it, and return it to service. Challenger and its 7 astronauts were lost January 28th of 1986 when a seal on one of its boosters failed and hot gas burned through the external tank, igniting the propellants and causing the shuttle to break up in the resulting explosion. That flight, STS-51L, was Challenger's 10th mission.
We've grown used to wonders in this century. It's hard to dazzle us. We've grown used to the idea of space, and perhaps we forget that we've only just begun. We're still pioneers. They, the members of the Challenger crew, were pioneers. The future doesn't belong to the faint-hearted. It belongs to the brave.
Discovery was the third operational shuttle and made its flight, STS-41D, in August of 1984. Discovery has flown more than any other shuttle with 39 missions under its belt. Discovery's noteworthy career also includes both return to flight missions after the Challenger and Columbia accidents. Discovery deployed NASA's Hubble Space Telescope, which has altered the way we see and think of our universe. Discovery was the first space shuttle retired from NASA's fleet, following its STS-133 mission to the ISS in early 2011. Space Shuttle Discovery, NASA's oldest remaining orbiter and the world's most flown spacecraft, will be displayed by the Smithsonian National Air and Space Museum near Dulles International Airport. Atlantis was the fourth operational shuttle and made its first flight, STS-51J, on October 3rd of 1985. The shuttle sent probes to Venus and Jupiter and carried NASA's Destiny's laboratory to the ISS. Atlantis also served as the final shuttle servicing mission, STS-125, for NASA's Hubble Space Telescope. STS-135 marked the 33rd mission and final flight for Atlantis. Atlantis flew the final flight of the Space Shuttle program and remains in Florida to be exhibited at Kennedy Spaceport's official visitor complex. Now let's talk about Endeavour. Endeavour was named by students in elementary and secondary schools across the nation after a ship chartered to traverse the South Pacific in 1768. Endeavour was the last space shuttle built and was ordered to replace Challenger. The shuttle made an immediate imprint on space history in May of 1992 during its first mission, STS-49. 3 spacewalking astronauts made the unprecedented effort to grab an orbiting satellite with their gloved hands and pulled it into Endeavour's cargo bay so it could be repaired and relaunched from the shuttle. Endeavour also accomplished the first repair mission to NASA's Hubble Space Telescope, basically giving the telescope a new set of contact lenses so it could peer into the farthest reaches of the universe. Endeavour was the second shuttle to retire after its successful 25th mission, STS-134, which delivered the AMS to the ISS in May of 2011. Endeavour is now on display at the California Science Center. Although the Space Shuttle has retired, NASA's Humans in Space program is still running full force. The International Space Station, orbiting 240 statute miles above the Earth at 17,500 miles per hour, aids in overcoming challenges associated with future deep space missions. Is the most complicated spacecraft ever built. This orbiting outpost can support a crew of 6 operating 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. It's a shining example of international cooperation for the U.S. and its space exploration partners. The research conducted on this one-of-a-kind orbiting lab helps improve life on Earth and teaches us valuable lessons needed to tackle the challenges of long-duration spaceflight. Like you, astronauts wake up and get ready for their day. However, living in space is not the same as living on Earth. The astronauts, for example, brush their teeth with a special toothpaste that they swallow. And since the astronauts are living in a microgravity environment, taking a shower can be a very difficult task. You may ask yourself, how is this done? And we at NASA, we have the answers.
Well, we can't take a normal shower because the water doesn't know how to find the drain. So we don't have a regular shower. What we do instead is, clean up with soapy water, and a wash towel of some type, a washcloth of some type. And let me just show you how that works. With the warm water, and this is already pre-mixed, where that's a little bit of the special soap in the water pouch. Then we add a little water to it. Get the wash towel wet. You know, it's a little bit like camping, taking a sponge bath, except it is warm water and it feels good and it gets you clean. When we're working out twice a day, very often twice a day, you know, it is important to get clean, as well as maintaining health and all the other hygiene aspects of staying clean in space. It's also good just because you feel better to wipe off the. Of course, we don't have, you know, we're not working outside. The temperature in the space station is cool and controlled, and the humidity is also moderately low. Also, so it's a very comfortable place to live. You don't sweat a lot, and you know need extra showers because you know you've been walking or working outside.
Water conservation is critical aboard the ISS for healthy living in space and must be used wisely. Food aboard the spacecraft has not only been dehydrated in order to preserve water, but also serves as a way to preserve food items. Even liquid waste from when the astronauts use the bathroom are recycled through a special water treatment plant and turned back into drinking water. So, are you curious as to how men and women even go to the bathroom in space? I have a really neat video with Sonny Williams, former commander of Expedition 33 aboard the ISS, who will tell you more about how it's done. So, let's take a look.
Here we are at the throne. This is awesome. You might see the little, you might have noticed the little moon on the outside. This is our orbital outhouse right here. And of course, it serves for two functions. Number 2, right here. I'll show you. But you see it's pretty small, so you have to have pretty good aim, and you be ready to make sure things get let go the right direction. And it smells a little bit, so I'm closing it up. And that's, of course, for number 2. And this guy right here is for number 1. So they're sort of two slightly separate functions, but you can do a little, essentially both, by hanging on right here and doing number 1 and number 2. I might add it's color coded so you really don't get it mixed up, which is nice. This is yellows for number 1. And also there's a selection of paper. People always ask about toilet paper. What do you do with toilet paper? What kind of toilet paper do you have? We have gloves just because sometimes it does get messy. We have some Russian wipes, which are a little bit coarse if you like the coarse type of toilet paper. We have some nice tissues, which are nice and soft if you like soft toilet paper. We have Huggies, just for any cleanup. You know, we were all babies once, and this sort of helps. And then if things get really out of control, we have disinfectant wipes, just to make sure we clean up here. Because, you know, just like the water I showed you, the number 1 stuff can sort of go all over the place if you don't aim correctly. And did I mention both of these have a little bit of suction, so they should keep things going in the right direction. But like I said, sometimes things get a little out of control if you are out of control yourself flying around. So we have lots of protective stuff. And of course, you do have your privacy. There's a little door.
Now that we've taken a look inside the International Space Station and learned about some of the internal modules of the ISS, let's talk more about working in space. First off, what are the characteristics of space? Very good. Humans cannot breathe in space, and it's very cold. These conditions are just a few of the many dangers astronauts face while doing a spacewalk. In Earth's orbit, conditions can be as cold as 250 degrees Fahrenheit, negative. In the sunlight, they can be as hot as 250 degrees. What could we wear in space to survive in these conditions? If you said spacesuit, that's correct. A spacesuit protects astronauts from those extreme temperatures. Spacesuits are much more than a set of clothes astronauts wear on spacewalks. A fully equipped spacesuit is really a one-person spacecraft. The formal name for the spacesuit used on the space shuttle and International Space Station is the Extravehicular Mobility Unit, or EMU. Extravehicular means outside of the vehicle or spacecraft. Mobility means that the astronaut can move around in the suit. The spacesuit protects the astronaut from the dangers of being outside in space. Spacesuits also supply astronauts with oxygen to breathe while they are in the vacuum of space, and also contains water to drink during the spacewalks. They protect astronauts from being injured from impacts of small bits of space dust. Space dust may not sound very dangerous, but when even a tiny object is moving many times faster than a bullet, it can cause injury. Spacesuits also protect astronauts from radiation in space. The suits even have visors to protect the astronauts' eyes from the bright sunlight. Underneath the spacesuit, astronauts wear a liquid cooling and ventilation garment. Liquids are woven into this tight-fitting piece of clothing that covers the entire body except for the head, hands, and feet. Water flows through these tubes to keep the astronaut cool during the spacewalk. Well, there you have it. We talked briefly about the history of the shuttle, how humans live in space, and how future technology is developing as a result of the research conducted aboard the International Space Station. So, what's next? Although NASA will continue operations on the ISS into the 2020s, the agency plans on an asteroid initiative to identify, robotically capture, and redirect a small asteroid into a stable lunar orbit. NASA also plans on continuing efforts of sending astronauts to Mars by the 2030s. So, if you're considering a career as an astronaut, engineer, or scientist, be prepared to study long and hard in math and science, because it could lead you to an exciting career here at NASA. Thanks for watching. This is David Alexander, signing off from NASA's Digital Learning Network.